You know how some men say their lives changed overnight? For me, it changed in 10 seconds. 10 seconds of eavesdropped venom that rewrote 20 years of memories. It was a Tuesday. I didn't mean to listen. I didn't want to. But there she was in the kitchen, just around the corner, whispering into her phone like a teenager hiding a cigarette. He actually thinks they're his children. Can you imagine? 20 years, and he still doesn't know. Walter and I laugh about it all the time. He's the perfect fool. I stood there, frozen. I think my breath left my body, like it just gave up. The he was me. And the children? My children? Or so I thought. She kept laughing, giggling, even. Like betrayal was just a light anecdote she shared over mimosas. My wife, Elizabeth, was laughing with her friend about how I had been raising another man's children, unknowingly, for 20 godforsaken years. I didn't storm in. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just walked back out to my car, sat behind the wheel, and stared at the dashboard like it held the secrets of the universe. It was in that silence that I decided something. I wasn't going to rage. I wasn't going to confront her. I was going to prepare. Because her birthday was 2 weeks away. Her special day, as she called it. And if she thought I was the perfect fool, she hadn't met the man I become when I've got nothing left to lose. First, I needed proof. Denial is a hell of a drug, and Elizabeth had a PhD in revisionist history. She could gaslight a lit match. So I got smart. I called in a favor from an old army buddy, Paul, now a private investigator. Guy owed me for bailing him out in Ramadi, so when I asked if he could pull a few paternity tests discreetly, he didn't hesitate. Send me the kids' toothbrushes. I'll handle the rest. A week later, I got the email. My hands trembled opening it, like I already knew what I'd see. 3 names. 3 results. Not the biological father. Not 1. Not 2. All 3. You ever feel the ground beneath your feet vanish? Like the air turns to tar and every breath sticks in your throat? That's what it feels like to realize your entire fatherhood. Every scraped knee, every bedtime story, every graduation speech practiced in front of the mirror was stolen. I stared at those results for hours. I kept waiting to feel numb. I never did. That night, Elizabeth walked into the bedroom, smiled like nothing was wrong, and asked if I could help plan her birthday brunch. Oh, I've got something very special planned, I said. She beamed, kissed me on the cheek, and went to bed beside me. I lay awake, thinking, 20 years of lies. 20 years of deception. And she was sleeping like a baby. Let her sleep. Let her dream. Because the moment she opened her eyes on her special day, the nightmare would begin. I spent the next 13 days wearing a mask so perfect, even a lie detector would have called me honest. Elizabeth never suspected a thing. I smiled. I kissed her cheek when she left for work. I even picked up her favorite bottle of Riesling and said, I want your birthday to feel special this year. Oh, honey, she said, practically purring. You always make me feel special. Right. Just not special enough to tell me the truth about our entire family. Meanwhile, I was running point on Operation Collapse. Quietly. Precisely. Like an architect building a house, only I was designing the blueprint for an implosion. First order of business. Legal prep. Now, most people think the moment you find out your spouse cheated, you confront, scream, divorce. Wrong. You get your ducks in a row first. I found a damn good lawyer, a shark named Miriam Kwan, who specialized in infidelity asset protection. Her words. I walked into her office, handed her the paternity results, and whispered the phrase that turned her eyes into blades of steel. She's been lying to me for 20 years, and I want out clean. She didn't blink. You're going to want documentation. Financials. Screenshots. Evidence of fraud, not just adultery. If she's been using your money to raise another man's children, especially if she knew that's deception, maybe even criminal under the right jurisdiction. God bless Miriam. She gave me a list, and I followed it like scripture. Back home, I played the part of doting husband. I asked Elizabeth what kind of party she wanted. She said something intimate but elegant. I nodded. How about brunch at our place? Just family and close friends. Her eyes lit up like she'd won the lottery. Yes. Let's do it on the patio. The garden's blooming, it'll be perfect. Perfect. I nearly laughed. I created a guest list, with her help. Her parents. A few girlfriends. Our children. My brother, who'd always loathed her and didn't know why yet. And one special guest she didn't know I was inviting. Walter. Her true love. The man who had helped her build this grand, grotesque secret. The man who, by some miracle of idiocy or arrogance, was still in her life under the radar. I'd found him. Paul, my PI buddy, got me everything. Phone records, burner email accounts, even a few security cam captures of them together at that little bookstore she always claimed was her happy place. You know, I used to buy her gift cards to that store. How poetic. The night before the party, Elizabeth was giddy. She tried on 3 different dresses, made me vote on each. I picked the red one, her favorite. I wanted her to look stunning, glowing, happy, because I wanted the moment of impact to hit hard. I just want to thank you, she said, wrapping her arms around me. I feel so lucky. Oh, sweetheart, you are, because I haven't called the cops yet. That morning, I cooked everything. Eggs Benedict, fruit platters, champagne mimosas, the works. The kids helped, still blissfully unaware of what was coming. They were good kids. My love for them didn't vanish. But it sure got complicated. At exactly noon, the guests began to arrive. I played host like a damn game show contestant. Handshakes, hugs, compliments. Elizabeth, you look radiant. She does, doesn't she? I said. She's been keeping secrets for years and still looks amazing. She laughed. Oh, stop. Not yet. Not even close. At 12:45, Walter walked through the gate, and Elizabeth's face went pale. To everyone else, I said, oh, you all know Walter, right? Old friend of Liz's. They go way back. He looked nervous, but I smiled and handed him a glass of champagne. She opened her mouth to say something, probably a panicked, what are you doing? But I raised a finger and said, hold that thought, babe. Time for your gift. And I walked inside. When I returned, I had 3 envelopes in my hand, one for each child, and a manila folder for her. Kids, I said, inside these envelopes is something important. It's not a trick. It's not a joke. But it's the truth. They looked at me like I was crazy. Elizabeth looked like she might faint. She rushed toward me, voice rising. What are you doing? Giving you a special day? I said, turning to the guests. A really special day? Because after 20 years of lies, this woman deserves an audience. And with that, I handed her the manila folder. Inside, DNA test results, photos, transcripts, and a letter addressed to her, with one line written in bold. He actually thinks they're his children. Can you imagine? Her eyes darted over the words. Her mouth opened. No sound came out. And for once, the perfect fool stood tall. You ever see someone's soul leave their body? It's not as dramatic as movies make it. There's no shrieking, no fainting. It's more subtle. A twitch in the corner of the mouth. The knees buckling, just a little. Eyes that stop blinking, staring into some abyss behind the rest of us. That's what Elizabeth looked like, standing there in front of a crowd she thought came to celebrate her birthday, only to witness her reckoning. She didn't speak. She couldn't. Her fingers gripped the folder like it had burned her, and her eyes darted to Walter. And that was the real giveaway. Because in that one glance, that panicked, pleading glance, she gave the whole game away. A look that said, save me. Tell me you've got this. Walter, for his part, looked like he wanted to crawl into the flower bed and never come out. He was sweating through his tailored linen shirt, mouth slightly open, trying to read the room and realizing, too late, it wasn't a room. It was a trap. My brother Paul stepped forward then, holding up a glass of champagne. To Elizabeth, he said, who has given us so much to talk about. The crowd laughed. Nervous, confused, on edge. Elizabeth turned to me, her voice low and sharp like broken glass. You've humiliated me. No, I said, loud enough for the guests to hear. You humiliated yourself. I just made sure you had the right lighting. I turned to the kids. My kids. Our kids. God, that was the hardest part. They were all teenagers by now, old enough to understand, but too young to deserve this. I need you 3 to hear this from me, I said. What your mother did has nothing to do with you. I raised you. I loved you. And that doesn't change because of blood. They looked stunned. My oldest, Josh, he was already tearing up, trying to process too many things at once. My middle daughter, Lily, clenched her fists and stared daggers at Elizabeth. The youngest just whispered, is this real? Every word, I said. But it's not your burden to carry. Then I turned back to the woman I once would have died for. You spent 20 years mocking me, lying to me, using me as a shield so you could play house with Walter here. I worked 2 jobs for a time just to keep the lights on, while you snuck away to keep your little secret burning. All while calling me a fool. She opened her mouth to say something. Apologize? Deny it? I wouldn't know because I cut her off. And now you're getting everything you ever wanted, Walter, and a clean break. Because while you were busy laughing behind my back, I was talking to lawyers. I pulled out another envelope. Divorce papers. Filed. Served. And thanks to some of those little financial discrepancies I found, I shot Walter a look. You two might be facing more than just a ruin party. Her face went white. Don't worry, I'm not taking the house, I added. I'm leaving the house. And I'm taking the kids with me, if they want to come. Walter found his voice then. Barely. You can't just take them. I can. And I did. I've already got temporary custody granted pending a hearing. Judges don't look kindly on long-term paternity fraud, especially when there's evidence of financial manipulation. He looked at Elizabeth. You told me. Don't. I raised a hand. Don't insult all of us with another lie. The guests were silent now. Not a whisper, not a cough. Just the sound of a cake deflating in the sun and a marriage rotting in real time. Then I stepped forward, close enough that only she could hear. You called me the perfect fool, I whispered. But you forgot what happens when the fool wakes up. And with that, I turned, nodded to the kids, and walked away. No yelling. No violence. No theatrics. Just the truth, weaponized. Let her explain the ruins. Let her sweep up the wreckage in that red dress she picked just for me. We drove in silence. The kind that swallows a car whole. No radio. No small talk. Just the hum of the tires on asphalt and the weight of betrayal filling every inch of air. My kids, our kids, sat in the backseat like they were returning from a funeral. And maybe they were. The funeral of the family they thought they had. I didn't know what to say. What do you say to three young people who just learned they were living in a beautifully wrapped lie? That the man who raised them, cheered from the bleachers, taught them to ride bikes, wasn't their biological father, but was still, somehow, more of a dad than the one their mother never even introduced? Lily was the first to speak. So, it's all true? I nodded. Yeah, I wish it wasn't. My oldest, Josh, leaned forward between the seats. Did you always know? I shook my head. Not until 2 weeks ago. Heard her talking on the phone. Then I ran DNA tests. I needed to be sure. There was a pause. Then he asked the question I'd been dreading. Are we not your kids anymore? That one nearly broke me. I pulled the car over, turned to face them. You listen to me. I don't care what some lab says. I raised you. I kissed your scraped knees, taught you how to throw a football, stayed up all night when you were sick. I'm your father. Maybe not by blood, but sure as hell by everything else that matters. Lily blinked fast, trying to hide her tears. The youngest, Emma, just crawled over the seat and clung to me like she did when she was 5. I don't want to go back, she whispered. I want to stay with you. You will, I said. As long as you want to. That night, we stayed in a hotel. 1 room, 2 beds. I didn't sleep. Just sat there watching the soft glow of the bathroom light spill across the carpet, trying to figure out what came next. My lawyer had warned me custody battles weren't just about biology or betrayal. But she'd seen cases like mine. Judges had hearts. And I had receipts. Literal proof that Elizabeth not only lied but built an entire life off that lie, using my income and trust like raw materials. I had a good shot. But it would be ugly. Still, that wasn't what haunted me. What haunted me was the why. Why lie for 20 years? Why keep Walter in the shadows like a ghost in our marriage? If he meant so much, why not leave me? Maybe she was afraid of starting over. Or maybe she wanted the stability of me and the thrill of him. A 2-for-1 life, funded by my ignorance. I was a stable man. I paid bills on time. I fixed the leaky roof. I made sure birthdays were never forgotten, even when I had to work double shifts. But apparently, being steady made me boring. A placeholder for something more passionate. That's what Walter represented, I think. Passion without consequence. A man who never had to bear the weight of fatherhood but got the title behind my back. And what did he do when exposed? He stood there, mouth agape, sweating like a thief caught in the vault. He wasn't ready to be the man she built him up to be. Funny how cowards never are. The next morning, the kids and I grabbed breakfast at a diner. Bacon, eggs, pancakes, the kind of food that feels like glue holding things together. Halfway through, Josh spoke again. So, what happens now? I sipped my coffee. Well, I've already moved most of the money. The joint accounts are frozen. Lawyer says we file for sole custody. House is going up for sale. I'm not living under a roof that's built on lies. And Mom? Emma asked. I looked at her gently. She'll face her choices. She'll probably say she didn't mean to hurt anyone, that it just happened. But the truth is, some wounds aren't accidents. Their decisions stacked like bricks. She said you were boring, Lily said suddenly. I looked at her, surprised. She said that to you? She didn't know I heard. On the phone once. She said you were good, but not exciting. Said Walter made her feel alive. I let out a breath and nodded slowly. Yeah, that tracks. Then I leaned forward, elbows on the table. Let me tell you something. Excitement fades. Stability builds. One's a spark, the other's a fire that keeps you warm for years. She chose the spark. Let her burn. They stared at me. Josh smiled first. Then Lily. Even Emma giggled. It wasn't much, but it was a start. The thing about a lie, especially one that stretches across 2 decades, is that it doesn't die quietly. It detonates. And in the days following the birthday brunch, the fallout spread fast. I didn't have to do much. Elizabeth's own silence was a confession. The way she refused to answer her phone. The way her friends started texting me with half-curious, half-mortified messages like, I heard what happened at the party. Is it true? Wait, Walter? Walter? The Walter. Asterisk. We always thought you two were such a solid couple. No one likes being the last to know. But they really hate knowing they've been sitting at the same table as betrayal and never saw it. So, the social circle that used to prop Elizabeth up like she was suburban royalty? It turned cold. Some of her friends reached out to me with sympathy. Others didn't. One in particular, Ava, the smug one always offering unsolicited parenting advice, actually had the audacity to say, well, maybe if you'd been more present. I cut her off. Present? I was the only one present. She was busy rewriting paternity tests while I was reading bedtime stories. She backed off. The neighborhood didn't talk much after that, but they watched. A few days after the party, Walter sent me a text. Can we talk? Man to man. I stared at it for a long time. I imagined what I'd like to say. That he was a coward. That he helped rob 3 kids of their truth and me of 20 years of my life. That I knew everything, the secret weekend trips, the yoga retreats that always lined up with his travel schedule, even the burner phones they both thought were clever. But what would be the point? So I wrote back. Sure. Come to the lawyer's office. He didn't reply. Figures. Elizabeth finally broke her silence 5 days post-party. She showed up at the hotel. Didn't knock. Just waited in the lobby until the front desk called me. I came down alone. She was dressed in jeans and a hoodie, her sad wife costume. No makeup, hair pulled back, a carefully constructed image of a woman unraveling. Can we talk? She asked. I nodded toward the lounge. We sat in a corner booth. She fidgeted with her hands. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she said. Of course. Walter was a mistake, she continued. It was a mistake I made before we were married, and it just kept going. I didn't know how to stop. I never thought the truth would come out. I sipped my coffee. You had 20 years to stop. 20 years to come clean. You didn't. That's not a mistake. That's a marathon. Tears welled in her eyes. Real ones, maybe. I didn't care. I still love you, she said. No, you love the life I gave you. You love the man I pretended to be for you. The one who didn't ask questions. Who paid for everything. Who played dad to another man's children and didn't dare rock the boat. You're angry, she whispered. No, I said calmly. I was angry. Now I'm done. She looked up, startled. You're really leaving. I already left, I said. You just didn't see it. Later that night, I got an email from my lawyer. Subject line, progress. Miriam had filed the motion to freeze all shared assets. We had a court date for temporary custody. She'd already prepped exhibits A through Z, the DNA tests, the transcript of the recorded phone call, even a breakdown of all the money Elizabeth had funneled into a secret credit card I didn't even know existed. I was shocked at how efficient it all was. How quickly the truth could be sharpened into a weapon when wielded by the right hands. And I didn't feel guilty. Not for a second. Because I'd spent 20 years playing the good guy. The patient man. The trusting husband. I'd earned my scars. Now I was just cashing in. That weekend, I moved us into a small rental house across town. It wasn't much, 3 bedrooms, a backyard full of patchy grass, but it was ours. It was honest. No ghosts in the closets. No lie seeping through the drywall. The kids helped me unpack. Emma made a fort out of moving blankets. Josh grilled burgers in the backyard like he'd been waiting his whole life to hold the spatula. Lily picked out curtains. Nothing matched, and it didn't matter. Because for the first time in a long time, the house felt real. That night, I sat on the back step, beer in hand, watching the stars. I wasn't healed. Not yet. But I wasn't broken anymore, either. I was building again. Divorce court isn't built for justice. It's built for procedure. Cold, fluorescent lights. Beige walls. The kind of sterile calm you'd expect in a dentist's office. But don't let the paint fool you. This place slices deeper than any root canal. I wore a navy suit. Nothing flashy. Just solid, steady, like the man she'd once called boring. Her lawyer looked like he'd just come off a yacht, slick hair, slicker smile. Elizabeth wore black like it was a funeral. Fitting. The kids weren't there. I didn't want them seeing this. They'd been through enough. The judge, a woman with a no-nonsense voice and a 1,000-yard stare, looked through the file Miriam had built like a fortress. She read. She frowned. She flipped to Exhibit G. That was the transcript. The call. He actually thinks they're his children. Can you imagine? Walter and I laugh about it all the time. He's the perfect fool. The judge looked up, right at Elizabeth. Mrs. Walker, is this your voice? My wife, soon-to-be ex, shifted in her seat, looked to her lawyer. I believe it is, she whispered. Believe. What a weasel word. Miriam stood. Your Honor, let the record reflect that not only did the respondent engage in a long-term extramarital affair, but she knowingly committed paternity fraud, knowingly allowed my client to raise 3 children under the belief that they were biologically his, despite knowledge to the contrary. Elizabeth's lawyer objected, some nonsense about emotional appeals, but the judge waved him off. Let me be very clear, the judge said. What's at stake here is not just infidelity. It's deception at a level that strikes at the core of familial trust. This court does not look kindly on such behavior. For the first time since all this began, Elizabeth flinched. The court awarded me temporary full custody pending the final hearing. Elizabeth would have supervised visitation. I didn't gloat. I didn't celebrate. Because this wasn't a victory. It was a salvage operation. But it was enough for now. A week later, I sat across from my kids at the kitchen table in the rental house. Spaghetti night. Simple, warm, familiar. I want to change my name, Lily said. I blinked. To what? Yours, she said. If it's not already. Josh looked up from his plate. Me too. Emma didn't say anything, just nodded with her mouth full. I didn't cry, but I felt it. In my throat. In my chest. That sting you get when you realize that, despite everything, they chose you. Blood be damned. Elizabeth called a few nights later. Voicemail. Her voice was a shaky whisper. Please call me back. I don't even know who I am without all of you. Tell the kids I love them. I didn't call her back. There wasn't anything left to say. Let Walter help her figure out who she is now. Walter, by the way? He lost his job. Turns out the company didn't appreciate the publicity. His wife left him, 2 filed within a week of the brunch. Now he's living in a downtown condo, probably wondering how the hell it all fell apart. Funny how quick karma is when it's been collecting interest. Thought after court, after the truth spilled out and the gavel came down like thunder, I'd finally sleep. Really sleep. Deep, dreamless, peaceful. But you don't just walk away from 20 years of deception without dragging some of it behind you. Every night, I'd wake around 2:13 a.m., always 2:13. Some kind of twisted joke from my subconscious, like it was trying to tell me, don't get too comfortable. She might not be in the bed anymore, but her shadow is still here. So I started walking at night. The rental house was quiet. The kids had settled into school again. No more whispers in the hallway, no more guarded looks. We talked through everything. Not all at once. Just slowly, like stitching a wound that ran deeper than we knew. But at night, when the world quieted, the truth still whispered. I'd see photos on my phone. From the before. Elizabeth and I, in Hawaii. Me holding Emma on my shoulders. Lily in her ballet recital. Josh in his Little League uniform, grinning with dirt on his cheeks. Those were real moments. Weren't they? And yet, they were built on a lie. That's the part they never warned you about. Betrayal doesn't just rewrite the present, it reaches back, claws into your memories, and paints question marks where there used to be periods.